this right here, this is straight from the textbook. These figures might be a little off here, but this right here shows you a comparison between self-employment and employment income, employee income. So this is usually an eye-opener here. Those self-employed have to pay self-employment taxes, whereas the employer pays a portion of these taxes for an employee. This alters income calculations. Generally, for every dollar of net profit, that means after you've paid your rent and your supplies and all of that, every dollar of net profit, the self-employed person loses 15 cents. Now that adds up. And for every dollar of employee wages results in a gain of about 7 cents. This adds up to more than $4,000 over a year period. The self-employed person must pay their self-employment taxes compared to the employee gain of more than $2,000 that doesn't necessarily show up in their payroll stub, because the employer is paying that in matching payroll taxes. Employee wages reflect massage session time during work hours. You go in, you do your job, you go home. And if you're truly an excellent employee, you will help the business grow and do some occasional promotional stuff and all of that. But you don't have to get up in the middle of the night if there's a leak in the faucet. You don't have to do any of that. Whereas the self-employed person must account for both the massage time and all of the business responsibilities. So I got a little task for you today. And I'm gonna put you into little groups and you can figure this out. So we had to cancel student clinic today. And so somebody, Tanya, had to wake up early and respond to my frantic call or frantic text about this, that, and the other thing. And we had, how many appointments would there have been, Tanya, including the afternoon? There was five times 4, right? Is that right? 20 appointments? And our base rate for that is $40. Who's got a calculator handy? Somebody got a calculator? 20 appointments, no money coming in, $40. How much did that business lose today?
800.
800.
$800.
We're all there.
Yep. At the spa, we already have had, I think, 10 people cancel. Right around an 8 to 10, weather related, all that kind of stuff. We have staff in on their schedule. And the base rate there is 60. So $600 income did not come in today, but we still have to pay the wages. So those employees their business, their career, their income didn't suffer. So we lost the $600, plus we lost what we had to pay the massage therapists and the staff, even though we didn't get any money for it. That's where the risk comes in. And that's another thing that's not factored when we take a look at it. Kaylee's friend, if there's a snow day or she gets sick or whatever and can't work, or she gets a day where if somebody cancels, that's it. that's done. She still has to pay her expenses. There's nobody gonna give you money anyway. Oh, so, these are all decisions that need to go into um, what you are looking at and what your life can handle really in relationship to um, how much stability you need. How well can you weather having an unreliable income? Uh, um, is there another person producing money in your family that can make sure that you don't end up living in your car? You know,
My
um,
husband and I had sort of that situation happen when he was laid off from his mechanic job at the airport, but wanted to start being a fireman. And luckily, we literally had enough in our savings just to barely make it by because the process to become a firefighter for Flint took so long
yeah,
that,
yeah,
I mean, like, my mom had to pay for a crown for one of my teeth because we weren't going to be able to pay for it. And I said, It's fine, I'll just wait." And she was like, "No, you're not waiting." But because one of my mom's rules, she grew up poor, so she didn't want us to go through that situation, was you need to be able to go both jobless and pay your mortgage and groceries, like, at minimum, for a year. And so we didn't even have that much in the account, and we've seen what that looked like, and that was very scary for us. But we because we were already trained to have so much in savings, we weren't, like, crippled. We were just, like, scared, basically.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean, that's we right now, he's our source of income, but we both are disabled veterans, so we have that if we didn't have that, it'd have been over, like, we'd have been straight out. But, that's another reason I really wanted to get into something that I enjoyed and could make money because I wanna also bring income into the family.
yeah. And it's scary right now for people. And when you're paying for a service out of pocket, well, like is most all of the income from massage therapy, and you get into some little strange economic times, or there are times that are busy during the year and times that are slow and all that, and so the income fluctuates. Now, we're not the only ones. I mean, you could have, I just saw one of the major grocery store chains just laid off like 4,000 people. I mean, stability is kind of abstract now. In my generation, a lot of the people I graduated from high school with, they went and got a job at one of the auto factories and worked there their whole life and retired and really didn't get a reality check until a lot of the pensions and stuff got crushed during 2008 recession. But you've got to be resourceful. You've got to be in a situation where you pre-plan as much as you can. Um, a lot of people will say, well, I'm going to go work for somebody while I build my business, and then I'm going to quit and just run my own business. What are the ethics for that employer that took the risk and did this and did that and did the other thing, and then all of a sudden off you go? What what is that? How would you feel if you invested 2, 3 years into somebody, developed them, increased their skill set, um, and then they just said, sorry, I'm going to go open my own business? And not only are they leaving a gap for income that they produce for the business, they may take some of those people with them, further reducing the business income. And there's been legal stuff that to try to prevent that, like non-compete clauses and stuff, but they're not even legal anymore. So, that's kind of slimy, don't you think? You know, if an employer has done that for you and then you do that to them, at the very least, you can let them know that that's your intention. You know, my intention is that I eventually want to have my own business. My intention is that, and here's my plan, and here's what I want to do. The people I know that have integrity as business owners, small business owners, and franchises are small business owners. They're not the big chains like Kroger and stuff like that. There's a small business person trying to make payroll back there in the franchise model. That would be like Hand and Stone and Woodhouse and Elements, and those are all individually owned. There's not a big corporate pool of money sitting anywhere on those. So they have to navigate this as well. Um, if if you said that to them, you know, and they could plan for that, you know, most of them will be on board and help you do it. Not all, you know, but they've a lot, especially the independent owners, they've been discouraged because they will hire somebody, they'll open a schedule, they'll settle things, and then the person whines and complains about folding laundry or putting toilet paper in the bathroom or having to go do a help out with a parade, and then they call in sick all the time, and then they don't show for, and then they half-ass do a massage, and don't do that. I don't want anybody coming out of Health Enrichment Center and doing stuff like that. I want you to be able to stand on the employer's side and understand where they're at as well. And if you decide that you want to go out and do your own business, I want you to have realistic expectations about what that takes to do that. Uh, So before we go to break, we'll give you a little break here. What did I say? You know, and I want everybody to kind of chime in on this. What did I say today that kind of hit home about, being a massage therapist on more on the business side of it? All right, who's going to go first? Marista.
I guess doing the math on what's missed today as far as just student clinic massages, like I guess I didn't even, I was like, it's a discounted massage, it just goes towards the school. I'm not making the money myself. So I'm like, oh, it's fine. An $800 loss is not fine. Like that's like panic inducing. So like I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So that I guess is what hit home for me today.
And we don't now, a lot of schools rely on their student clinic to bring income into the business. I have never done that. If we ever, because we discount almost everybody, right? But
Mhm.
if we do have a level of profit, which I don't think we've ever had, it would go into be buying some equipment or something for something.
Mhm.
It's not part of the dependent upon income to keep the doors open.
Yeah, and I guess that's my whole point. Like it's just the student clinic. It's the discounted massages. Like that's
Yeah.
not even the business being shut down for the day. That's just like the extra school money. And so like what did you guys lose for not being able to like get into work or at least early to, even if you just missed half your appointments, like that's just a little rattling.
Yep, it's gone. Okay, good job. Who's going to go next? Liz, make sure you unmute.
So I didn't realize how many loyal clients like you needed. It was like a shockingly low number, but like more than I expected. Because I know I have a friend who's an esthetician and she's like, yeah, I'm trying to build a clientele. And I was like, oh my goodness, she's gonna have to build like a big clientele, but like not overly big. And so it was like, I wasn't quite expecting that amount of people. I was like, huh, okay.
Yeah, estheticians, cosmetologists, years and years ago, people got appointment every week. And they were very similar then to what we looked. It's not like that now.
No.
But they have to have more like 1,000 people in their pool in order to be booked out. So but 100,
That's a lot of people.
yeah,
It's also
100
like,
will do it. And once you get yourself settled in, it's somewhere between 35 and 50. Yeah. But to get that first 100, you got to touch somehow, either through a presentation or handing somebody a card or, being at an event or what you got to still touch that 1,000.
yeah.
You got to do that. So good job. Who's next? Okay, Ella.
I liked how you said, right out. Well, I mean, you've emphasized it a lot, but right after getting out of school, you're not going to be self-employed. You don't want to be self-employed. You want to be on your, you want to work for somebody, build that, and you might even make more money if you like are just starting out and you don't know all the stuff. So I like that.
Yeah, and you want to choose your employer well. You want somebody that wants to support you. And you develop that just as they interview you. Are you a good fit for the business? You interview them to make sure that they're going to be a good employer for you so that you are truly in a win-win situation. And there are crappy employers out there, just like there are crappy massage therapists as employees. As a general rule, massage therapists are not great employees. They're a little on the wild side. So, but having that aha, I think is really important. All right, who's going next?
I think the loyalty to the employers. We want our clients to be loyal to us, so we should be loyal to our employer.
Yeah, especially if they're doing a good job. Now, if you're with a crappy employer, don't work for them. Just like I tell employers, if they're a pain in the butt employee, get rid of them. Michigan is, or most of the states are an at-will state. You don't have to have a reason. So don't, they'll say, well, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to staff. And I say, having somebody in the break room that's causing trouble and gossiping and whining and all that kind of stuff, you don't want them in there. They're going to end up costing you money. So good. Who's next? I see Audrey.
Yeah, I can go next. Sorry, I got kids around me.
I know you do. Go ahead, Audrey.
But I think the thing that I took away from it today was the fact that you were explaining the situation that you had to deal with the student clinic and with the business and how many people have already called in, the money loss that you're having to deal with, and the last minute changes that you have to call. And it definitely shows like stepping out of school, you definitely aren't ready for a business because that's a lot to handle and have to put on your shoulders, like stepping right out of school.
Yeah.
So
Now the
I
exception
take
to
that
that
way.
rule, is if you've already managed a self-employed business situation and you kind of have already had to jump through some of these hoops. Like for instance, Patricia, you have already run a business, you know what it's like when somebody doesn't show up or somebody doesn't pay their invoice, or you know what that's like. You may not want to do it anymore. I don't know. Somebody who has had a cleaning business for a while, they have kind of a similar idea of people calling and canceling, or lawn service too. Oh, well, you don't have to come and mow today. It's dry. But for the most part, um, it's a lot of stuff that is more than the massage that you don't think of. And if
Yeah,
you
and you're
go ahead.
already trying to learn how to do the massaging and you're trying to learn how to be an employee and learn the ins and outs of giving multiple massages during a day, a week, and all that. Like
I think that stacked on top of it would be a lot of work to deal with, managing a business and also being an employee, and trying to get it off the ground, trying to grab your clientele. It's just a lot.
It is a
So
lot,
I
and
think another
it can
day.
be done. It can be done. But you don't want to
Yes.
go in with rose-colored glasses, and you need to look and see how complex your personal life is. That makes a difference. And if you got little kids, that will interfere sometimes with your flexibility. If you have adult parents that you're trying to, take care of, you may not want to go this alone for a while. But you also have to realize that while an employer can be supportive, if you call off because of a family emergency or something, it's a nightmare at that desk. Just know that. So you don't do that very often. That should be the exception rather than the rule. But you have to gauge that, and money isn't the only determining factor. You can take a position that pays less, but gives you some flexibility that you would not get someplace else, and that has value. You might earn more taking a position as a UPS driver, but if you work at the spa for a less, it's nice and warm and cozy. You want to consider the bigger picture in what's going on with stuff. So, okay, good. Who's next?
Well, I'd like to say that when I got into my business, I did have somewhat of a mentor, but I didn't work for a shop, so I didn't learn on the job. Everything was online. And when I see myself maybe working at a larger spa, I think of all that experience that I can pull from and how they could guide me and teach me. And that's what I can appreciate as an employee.
And you want to have that be part of your decision about where you work too. You want coworkers that are open and willing to share. One of our staff, under pressure from family who thought she wasn't getting paid enough, she could go someplace else and get paid more, did take another position for a while, and probably would have been paid more. But the staff was very competitive, and they didn't want to share, and they didn't want, it was like, you took my client, and that kind of thing. So you also want to have a feel for the work environment. The Woodhouse over in Rochester, for example, I actually do some continuing education for them twice a year. And the owners of that, they're really up on community, that their staff is a community. And they actually employ people because they have a much bigger business than what we have, and they have retail and all that kind of stuff. But that's a criteria, is that you got to work as part of the team. And if they don't feel like you're going to be a team player, then they won't hire you. So I think that's a very important thing to look at, is that you have a team behind you that's willing to help. Yeah.
I just want to say that period of time was less than 8 hours. Of course, she came back.
Yeah, she was only gone a day. And it was the people. It was that she already knew that she was in an environment that was going to be caustic, and that's not good. And don't be a caustic person either in the environment. If you're in a team environment and something's not working out, see if you can offer a solution. Come up with an idea. Don't gossip about it in the break room or outside while go talk to the owner or the manager and see if you can come up with a win-win on that. So, good job. Okay, who hasn't done it yet? Carrie, have you talked yet?
Not yet. I think what was interesting for me was the time cost that is part of being like your own boss. How you might do 20 massages, but then it's another 20 hours on top of that, and it really makes you consider. Especially, you saw my youngest there.
Yeah.
Like, is it worth that dealing with that time right now, or is it worth it to me just to work for someone for those 20 hours, then use my time somewhere else right now?
Yeah, I think sometimes these things are not put forth as firmly as I do. I see a lot of massage therapists, young ones, young in the profession, not necessarily young in age, and they are disillusioned because they have not been prepared to look at all sides of this. So, and Callie, you gave an excellent example of somebody who has gone out on their own and has done a great job. So it can be done. But they got to be careful to not fall to some of the pressures too that are out.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I don't think she will. She's a pretty strong-willed person,
that's
and
good.
she didn't seem like she was like, oh, I know, I always hear about what these other people are charging, and she's like, but I just if what I'm doing is working, I can't do that to my clients. I don't want to do that. So
You tell her I said good for her.
I will. I will. Because, yeah, she knows you. And actually, she's going to check you out for the CEUs.
Okay, perfect.
I think Luke said maybe March is when you're talking about
I
doing
think
them.
so. I got to look at it. So
Yeah.
did you give us your aha for today or for this segment yet?
No, I think mine would be kind of the same as everybody else's for the most part. Like, I think that there's pros and cons
There
to
are.
each way that you go with it. And you really just have to do with what fits you at that moment.
Yes.
And you don't have to stick with one thing.
No.
If you try one thing and it doesn't really work out, then try something else. That's kind of been my mindset the last year or two, just about everything in life. If you try something and you don't like it, it's okay. Or if it
Yep.
doesn't work, it's okay. Do something else or try something else. So yeah, I think it was just, I think everybody needs to just, like, you have to do what's going to fit you and your family best.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Kaylee? Here she goes. And then Andrew.
Actually, I was away. We ran out of propane and the people came to relight everything. So I was away so I don't know what we're talking about.
The question is from this little lecture, and you got most of it. What this little thing we did this morning. What was your main takeaway on that?
I think that for me, I was looking more into like being self-employed. And then I think that now after going through all that, I might look into being an employee just because I do have younger children. And I think that that might be a little bit easier for me to do with the kids.
That doesn't mean that you give up your dream of self-employed.
Right, right.
Or that you do both. If you're
Yeah.
working with if you're loyal to an employer, so you've got a level of stability and you're transparent and you talk about that, then you're not necessarily competing for a client base. You can do both.
Okay.
You can do both.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Andrew, did you learn anything today?
No, I did. Quite a bit of it. I already know a lot about the 1099 W-2. I've worked both. I'm currently working both now. But I liked how you touched on the pay structure. For example, during the massage, you're getting maybe $30, $40. And then when you're not doing a massage, maybe getting minimum wage, something like that. So it kind of evens out. And maybe as an employer, your success is also dependent on the business success. So I like that you touched on that, pay structure, and how we would get paid.
Yeah, and it's so confusing. But you go out there. I mean, I for our graduates, I routinely will get a call and say, this is what they're telling me, and I'll say, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did I miss anybody?
I have one other thing.
Yeah.
A difference between an employee and an employer or being self-employed is if you're an employee, you have that front desk staff.
Yes.
So if somebody cancels or a client decides to leave, you have that front desk staff helping you to rebuild that clientele. So it's less for you to do. Whereas if you're self-employed, you're continually having to work harder to regain and keep that clientele.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Tanya, and I want to use this moment before I give you a short lunch break. There is a tendency to not treat front desk staff as well as they should be treated. We can have a massage therapist call off and figure it out. We have desk staff call off and we're screwed. That desk staff is essential to a multi-practice situation. And if you are self-employed, I mean, you got to be your own desk staff, right? I wouldn't want anybody, again, that graduates from Health Enrichment Center to not be kind and supportive and appreciative of desk staff, because their job is really important and they're typically underpaid. So, in my mind, they're underpaid. A lot of them work for just a little above minimum wage, wherever that is. We don't do that, but you know, the massage therapists make more than they do, and that can be a bitter pill to choose sometimes when, the massage therapist is complaining about doing laundry, which I have zero tolerance for, or checking out and dusting or whatever, cleaning a filter in one of the air filters. And the desk staff is canceling appointments and moving this around and trying to check somebody out, and yeah, I don't like that. Don't do that. Remember the importance of everybody in the system and treat everybody that they're in equal cog in what's going on with stuff.